Hello everyone and welcome to Retail Media Thursdays. My name is Megan Harbold and we are here in LA. Today we're talking to Nikhil Lai from Forrester. Hi Nikhil, welcome to Retail Media Thursdays. How are you?
Thanks so much for having me. I'm doing really well.
Great. Why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself and your role at Forrester?
Sure. So I cover performance marketing at Forrester. I research, analyze, and give advice to performance marketers. And I do that with empathy, or at least I try to, because I was once a performance marketer. So I began my career running performance marketing at General Electric. We fired our agency, brought everything in-house. I was hands-on keys across all the channels. Then I built a product for TV advertising at Silent Media to help performance marketers hold TV accountable to the bottom of the funnel, and a product at Marpipe to help performance marketers test variables within their ad creative and then scale those winning variables to solve for signal loss. So that's what I'm up to.
Exciting stuff. Why don't you tell us a little bit about your peak of the week?
Sure. So my peak of the week, and this will give you a sense of how nerdy I am, is a research interview that I did with an agency who is training a simulated version of their client's ideal customer and focus group testing ad creative on that simulation. So their client is a big truck brand, and they've simulated a driver, and they're asking the simulation of the driver to compare colors 1, 2, 3, and 4, copy variations 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and they're trying to mitigate the risk of running creative that's not going to be resonant with their target audience.
Wow. Seeing the future happen. That's pretty exciting.
Yeah.
Last question about where we are and why we're here.
Sure. We're at the Old Fella in Culver City, California. And we're here because I love the cinematic history of Culver City. So Gone with the Wind was filmed across the street.
Mom's favorite.
Yes, same. And so this part of LA is just teeming with film history. And it's also vaguely reminiscent of a pub in London where I lived, studied, worked for about a year, and where Michelle Irwin is from. So pour one out for her.
Yes. Great. Well, let's dig in. Maybe we can start with just kind of digging into some of the inquiries that you get in your day-to-day job. You obviously take these inquiries from brands, from retailers, from tech companies. What are some of the important trends that you're seeing come into your inbox lately?
Yeah. So from brands, it's about workflow efficiency and analytical efficiency. So in terms of workflow efficiency, for example, I was speaking to the head of retail media at a holding company agency who's getting requests from her CPG clients to spread a couple $100,000 across 30, 40, or 50 different media networks. So they're logging into that many portals, each with a different attribution window from the other, different match rates. So bidding is a mess, planning across channels is a mess, measurement becomes a mess, and that's challenge one. The other part of that is because of the heterogeneity of these media networks, it's really hard to compare apples to apples to apples across these 30, 40, 50 different portals.
Right.
So for example, I was speaking to the head of retail media at a cleaning brand, and she said that she literally can't figure out whether to spend her next dollar with retailer X or retailer Y, because the ROAS from one she thinks is calculated differently than the ROAS from the other. So 5-to-1 ROAS in one is qualitatively different from a 5-to-1 ROAS in the other. So she doesn't know where to put her dollar next. So getting questions like that. From retailers, the questions are about how to attract dollars other than shopper and trade marketing dollars that are being cannibalized right now to fund the growth of retail media. And there's still a lot of shopper and trade dollars to be absorbed, but obviously the biggest budgets are still going to TV, online video, social, things like that. The other big challenge for retailers is how to better own their relationships with advertisers. So in some cases that means bringing the sell side tech stack in-house. And then third is about how to staff this opportunity. So when I speak to retail media program managers at retailers, they've typically been poached from agencies or from strategy consulting firms or their recent MBAs, and they're trying to cultivate media savvy within organizations that heretofore haven't thought of themselves as publishers.
Right. A muscle they don't have yet.
Yes, yes, exactly.
Let's dig a little bit into some of these themes. So Kroger kind of shook it up a little bit last year, right? Bringing their ad platform in-house.
Yeah.
And you mentioned kind of this theme of in-housing of the sell-side stack. Tell us a little bit more about that and what you think is important for retailers considering this opportunity.
Yeah. So I should clarify that it's not fully in-house with Kroger. They're white labeling a more customizable, more flexible platform than what they used to have. And they prefer to do that rather than have their relationships with advertisers be intermediated by a commodified ad server.
Okay.
So it's white label technology that makes sense for the biggest retailers in the country who care a lot about the site experience, the in-app experience of their customers, and they want to deliver the most relevant advertising possible. And some of these customizable, flexible platforms deliver more relevant advertising than the commodified ad servers. And the other thing is that for the mid to long tail of retailers for whom this is mostly an off-site audience extension play, makes less sense to bring the tech stack in-house because they're not doing much on-site advertising unless they buy more traffic, which is really expensive to do. So for now, this is a story of a sort of head retailers trying to deliver more relevant advertising and develop more direct, deeper relationships with their advertising customers.
Yeah. So you mentioned the mid-long tail and this kind of lengthening of the tail, which is a theme that's happening. And lengthening kind of means we've got new entrants.
Yep.
We've got verticals that are not retailers playing now in retail media.
Right.
And then you also have this kind of notion of advertising co-ops.
Yeah.
Again, what's kind of your take on what these companies really need to be thinking about or doing strategically to really compete with the other retailers that might have this a little bit more figured out?
Yeah. So they need to become scaled alternatives to larger retailers, which means that they need to partner with non-competitive retailers, pool data together in the same way that catalog retailers did 20 years ago with co-ops. And then that pool of data is going to lead to stronger signal fidelity for on-site targeting. So if they don't have enough traffic themselves, but across 5 or 6 different retailers, then they do have enough traffic for that on-site, search and display targeting or in-app targeting.
Yeah.
It'll also create stronger signals for audience extension plays off-site. And so it's about signal fidelity, and it's about cooperating with non-competitive retailers to pool data sets together. It's also about working with demand-side platforms who are all trying to make markets for retail data, because these mid to long-tail retailers set very aggressive goals with their CFO and with their board for how much ad revenue they generate and what the margin would be on that ad revenue. And a lot of them overestimated how much on-site revenue they would get.
Okay.
You had airlines going to their board saying, we're going to get people buying display ads in our app. That's not happening because there's not enough traffic in the app. And so now those folks, you saw what happened with Gap, for example. They paused their media network. It doesn't work for a single brand retailer. There's no non-endemic play there, and there's really no offsite play there because the signal's weak. And so we're seeing a bit of a correction, but to avoid more of a correction, you have to begin to cooperate with non-competitive players in your space.
Excellent. So let's pivot a little bit to a non-endemic advertiser. Again, maybe those who are not currently participating in retail media, mainly because they don't have a product to sell at that online retailer space. They're obviously more and more interested in all these developments, and especially as the DSPs are merging into it, this off-site opportunity is merging with what they're already doing. But they're not quite moving forward. There's definitely kind of this hesitation. What are you seeing, or what guidance would you have to help this industry figure out how to attract them and actually have them take action, put their budget dollars in trying retail media?
Yeah. So the two hurdles are cost and transparency.
Yeah.
Right now. So on the cost side, and I've been working closely with some big automotive advertisers, insurance advertisers. They have hundreds of millions of dollars to spend on advertising each year. We're like, what is going on in Amazon ads? What is going on in Connect? And how do we take advantage of that? And they can find proxies for their potential buyer's intent within Amazon's data set, within Target's data set, fine. But then when they layer those proxies onto the broader audiences that they're targeting, and then the CPM begins to creep up and up and up. And at some point, the response rates aren't high enough to justify the sticker price.
Right.
And then it doesn't, and then it no longer becomes mathematically obvious to be buying retail media. So cost is a hurdle, which has to be dealt with. And I think that the cooperatives can help to reduce that cost by blending some of that data together. The other hurdle is transparency that I mentioned. And so these advertisers are fed up for the most part with how big ad platforms are asking them to sacrifice transparency and control in favor of performance. And I think you know who I'm talking about with
Yes.
the walled gardens, right? And then when they get into retail media networks, there's like 6, 7, 8 other mini walled gardens that they're trying to buy across, and they can't standardize measurement, and they can't get the sort of granular data out of the retail media networks that they expect or that they need for the media mix modeling. So the retailers have to become more flexible and more malleable for these advertisers, give them the kind of experience that they really want from Hulu, from NBCU, from Google, from Meta. They have to reach that true flexibility.
So great segue into my last question for you, all about connected TV.
Sure.
Obviously, you mentioned kind of coming from that space, done a lot of work there. Again, just kind of a pretty open-ended question. How big is this opportunity really, especially as it's kind of starting to collide with retail media in particular?
Yeah, it's big. And it's particularly big because of the measurement crisis and the audience crisis that TV advertising as a whole is undergoing. So you saw video and benign spot chasing the opportunity to become alternative currencies to Nielsen. You have TV buyers who can't estimate reach on the front end across linear and connected TV because of these variable currencies. So there's a measurement and audience crisis there in TV. And now retail comes in and brings these massive purchase data sets. And so what could be done, this is the sort of holy grail to me of TV plus retail data, is being able to score TV advertising availabilities in real time based on their propensity to lift purchases. So you can say this program, this day part, this day of week, the sort of typical TV currencies, you can score them based on how much incremental ROAS they will or will not generate, which you can predict because of the streaming, shopping, browsing signals that retailers have access to that they can then apply to TV viewing behavior. And then you hold TV accountable to the bottom of the funnel without sacrificing reach. You get aided, unaided awareness, as well as incremental purchases and new to brand sales. And then you really turn TV into a full funnel medium that not just impacts the middle of the funnel, but also the very bottom of it. And that is extremely powerful. I mean, that to me would solve a 60 or 70-year-old problem. So I'm really excited about that possibility.
Excellent. Thank you for nerding out with me a little bit.
Sure.
Let's maybe have a little bit of fun with some rapid fire questions.
Sure.
Okay. So you mentioned you lived in the UK for a little while.
Yep.
Obviously, Michelle, my colleague, is also from the UK, and she loves to ask us Americans if we know any of the local lingo. So I'm going to give you a London word, a UK word.
Okay.
And you have to explain what it means.
Oh, man. All right.
I only got 3 out of the 5, so good luck.
All right.
Okay, the first one. What is a shindig?
A shindig is like a party, an event. Like this tonight is going to become a shindig, I think, at the old.
That one I feel like was in the movies, so that was a good one. I got that one too. What is a Muppet?
A Muppet is, I think, like an idiot or like a sort of...
I'm going to look at my notes, actually, because I actually don't even remember. How did you know that? That is correct.
Because someone used that on me when I was there.
You got called a Muppet. That's great. What about dodgy?
Dodgy? Oh, that's a great word. That I think is pretty popular in America.
I think we use that too.
That's someone who's shady, sus, I think is what.
Exactly. All right, this one I had no idea. What is a dummy?
A dummy?
A dummy.
I don't know the slang meaning.
Yeah, I mean, it's obviously not our U.S. terms. In the UK, it means a pacifier.
Oh, funny.
I guess you give your baby a dummy. Why not? Okay, the last one. A stag do.
A stag do is... a bachelorette? No, that's hen do. It's a bachelor party.
Nice. Nailed it.
Did I beat you?
You definitely beat me. Listen, you had an unfair advantage. You lived there. Well, thank you so much, Nikhil. It's been wonderful having a drink with you here in La La Land.
Yes. Thanks for coming down.
Thanks so much.